All right, welcome back to another episode of Travel Ball Talk. I'm your host, Rich Prado, owner of Play in School. Today we're heading right up I-95 inside the Beltway in Alexandria, Virginia to visit with Chris Berset with Primetime Baseball. Chris, how you doing, man?
Doing well, Rick. Thanks for having me on. Excited to be here, chat a little bit about what's going on. So excited to have you.
So we're coming off the back end of the ABCA big national convention down in Nashville. I didn't make it this year, but you did. Has the ABCA hangover worn off at this point?
No, it hasn't. It hasn't at all. Because as soon as we got back, we have all these kids waiting to learn about what we learned there. So I think these past 2 nights I was 1 to 10 with lessons with kids just like starving for more information. So once we make it through Saturday, and then that hangover will kind of go over. But what a fantastic showing they put on there, you know.
Yeah.
I know you've been there, but to meet your coaches, your former players, seeing what they're doing, to learn new information, see all the stuff, it's fantastic stuff.
Well, the going to Nashville and the facility there, the Gaylord, is it's a little easier as far as number of footsteps per day, because I remember at Indianapolis, it was like a strong like mile and a half walk. It might have been more. It might have been more like 10 miles between where my room was and where the actual ballrooms were for the convention. I don't know if you've been out to that. I mean, you're under the same roof. It's this giant convention center connected to the hotel. But I remember I was walking like 20,000 steps or whatever it was in Indianapolis, and then you get to down in Nashville. You're like, oh, this is cake. My room's like right next.
Nashville, yeah.
It's
Nashville being up down. You can go up down every single time. It's perfect. Everyone's right around there.
It really is it's an awesome facility. If anybody's listening hasn't been, the ABCA is always a fun time, but Nashville's cool. That facility where the event takes place is awesome, but then you're just a quick Uber ride away from downtown and all the fun stuff that comes along with that. So right out the gate, I usually do a terrible job and forget to tell people where they can find you, but they can connect with you over on Twitter over at Berset10. That's the letter C, Berset, number 10. And make sure you go over and follow at Primetime BSBLL, and that's for Primetime Baseball. Go connect with Chris over there. Chris is a guy that has this feeling like he likes to learn and he likes to share. So that's the first impression I've gotten.
Absolutely. You should also take a look at our Instagram, Primetime Baseball. You can look at us up there. We got a good following over there. And we just try and give back drills that we've learned over my playing career that we'll dive into here, but kind of seeing what we do for our boys and how to get them to the next level. So any questions you guys have, let me know. So,
this is one of those rare instances. Chris and I have sort of exchanged texts, and we've even had a couple of longer conversations in the past. But I would say I don't really know your background. So this next part of the call and this next part of the conversation is going to be fun for me. I see that, okay, you're a former pro guy with the Reds. I see you coached with GW, but I also see you wearing a Great Britain jersey on field. So I'm kind of excited. Can you go back maybe to your college days, and maybe go back and tell us where you're from as far as your high school playing, and then walk us up. But definitely don't skip over this Great Britain stuff, because I'm very curious about that part of your journey.
Sure, absolutely. So to begin with, this is a game that has taken me all over the world, and I would have never dreamed of this, imagined this when I was growing up. We'll dive into that, but it's truly crazy where this game can take you. So I'm from the Vienna, Virginia area. I went to school at a small high school here in the WCAC, a very good high school, the Heights School. We were not known for baseball or anything. We weren't good there. We were actually pretty poor. I ended up getting lucky enough. It was going into my senior year. I had a really good showcase up in Wareham, Massachusetts. A couple schools saw me. Ended up going to the University of Michigan. I mean, how can you not? You get recruited there. You see the big house, and you're like, oh, my gosh. Like, yes, where do I sign up?
Yeah.
So fantastic. Everyone's like, this small kid, he's going to go to Michigan. We'll see how he does there. I've never really heard of him, right? He's not on the national rankings where Michigan, is now. So we go there. I play as soon as I get there as a freshman. I split games like 50-50, which is big news for a freshman to come in there and do that. Ended up playing 4 years there. We had a fantastic run, 2 Big Ten titles. If you remember, we're the team that beat Vandy when down at their place to go to the Super Regionals. We are actually talking to my former coach about that, where we had to go out to Oregon State back in the year they won it all. Instead of hosting, we would have hosted that tournament. So crazy how that all materialized. Had a fantastic senior season. I think I hit around 390, somewhere right there. Drafted in the 20th round by the Cincinnati Reds. So if anybody's familiar with pro ball, you just get shipped away immediately. You go to Arizona first, and then they're like, all right, you're going up to Billings, Montana. I'm like, where the heck is Billings, Montana? That'll be a fun one.
Yeah.
So
you know where it is on the map, right?
Yeah. Great town, great people. I always felt like they were kind of like 20 years behind civilization. They had like 2G and everyone else was going on to 5G at that time on your cell phone. So you're like, oh, this is going to be a great experience. So, work our way through that ladder. And, when you go through your steps, low, high, double, AAA, I ended up 2.5 years at AAA for the Reds. And everything was solid. Let's back up a little bit.
Yeah, back up. What year did you finish at Michigan?
So 2010.
Okay.
So we're going to back to Michigan and kind of tell about how I kind of played for Great Britain the same time I was playing pro ball. So this is a great story. It was like we're all sitting in the locker room at Michigan. I think I'm a junior or senior. I think it was end of junior year. And we had a volunteer coach. He's now down at Auburn. He is the assistant AD, I believe, down there, Brant Ust. He walks in the locker room and he goes, any of you guys British in here? And I'm like, I kind of raised my hand and I'm like unsure of myself, whether I am, but I know I am. And he goes, Berset, like, what's your connection with Great Britain? I said, well, my mom's born and raised over there. Like, does that count? And he's like, are you kidding me? Now you just tell me this? He goes, do you want to go play for Great Britain national team? I said, absolutely. Sign me up. When do we go?
That's
and
awesome.
He goes, we're going in, I think it was the fall. And so we get the dual citizenship to go over there. Our first tournament, we head over to Zagreb, Croatia. And we're playing the likes of Japan, Croatia, and I think it was Nicaragua. And so we win a game over there. And then we head over to Amsterdam, Netherlands to play this was the World Cup. So before the World Baseball Classic, they had the World Cup. And this was 2009. So we're playing Puerto Rico, Cuba, Venezuela, all the top dogs with all their, former major leaguers because it was in the September timeframe. So from there on, it just kind of always had a connection. Anytime there was a European championship, boom, I was over there. Then we turned into the World Baseball Classic qualifier. I was the starting catcher for everyone. So if you remember, there was the time in 2016, it was the World Baseball Classic qualifier in Brooklyn. That I was the starting catcher for that Great Britain team, and we lost to Israel in the championship to advance the World Baseball Classic. And so this year we finally advanced. Awesome news from there.
That's a fun story.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. And we've been all over from Germany to Holland, everywhere over in Europe, and it's just fantastic. You just get to play some baseball over there, and you can't beat it.
And so your mother, born and raised over there, and did she immigrate here and meet your father, or was your father abroad and met her and then was like, hey, let's head back to America?
Nope. My mom came over here when she was 18 to go to medical school. She wanted to be a nurse full time. She actually moved to Boston, where my dad's from, and so you have a heavy Boston accent and then a British accent. They just hit it off, and boom, here we are later.
That's cool. That's a pretty cool story.
Yeah.
All right. So then you end up with the Reds. You bounce around different levels, and you get up as high as AAA for a couple of years.
Yeah, 2.5 years in AAA. My last year, I caught 92 games. Like, I had a pretty good shot to make it out. I hit like 250. Was the full-time guy. It just didn't work out at the time, but
it is such a crapshoot, isn't it?
Oh, it is.
Especially you were would you say you were a 20th rounder? So it's not like it's not like they got a couple $1 million invested in you. You're like this guy they barely invested in, but you're playing, you're hustling, you're playing every day, you're hitting the baseball, and it's like you don't want to root for some guy to get a hangnail, but you kind of need a guy to get a hangnail, or like stub his toe or something, so you can get called up and play a little bit.
It was very close. It was like so Tucker Barnhart, a good friend of mine, actually, I was just talking with him to get him down to a camp at prime time to run a catcher's clinic. He was the only other catcher. The other catcher got injured. They needed one, and they took my backup because he had a little bit more experience than I did in the big leagues. And I was like, I mean, it hurts, but it is part of, everything it is. You put so much into it, you want to, but it is what it is.
So that comes and goes, and I'm guessing after that, was there anything after that, or did you go straight into coaching?
So we went in. So I could have gone the indie ball route, the independent baseball. No knock on that. I think that just wasn't for me. The body was getting banged up after a long year. Mm-hmm. That World Baseball Classic qualifier was after the season, and my arm was shot by that time. It was just a long, long season. Remember, that was my first year ever catching like 100 games in a calendar year, so it was a lot of baseball. So, that was it. I kind of went to full time. I was getting married. And so I was like, all right, maybe this is the time where I'm okay. I put everything into it. If it's not in the cards, it's not in the cards. Prime time was kind of faltering. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, hey, let's go back here. Let's get a home base going here. I love coaching anyways, in a sense. That was probably my better passion or bigger passion, what I'm good at. So it was like, okay, let's maybe now's the time. So 2016 was the last year. 2017, we started catching.
And so that's 4 years. What year is this? 2020. So 6 years ago. We're 2023 already. I'm like, my goodness.
I know.
And so you're coaching at a variety of places, or were you doing the youth stuff at the same time that you were with GW, or like how did you transition into college, out of college, into youth ball?
I'll have all the youth ball guys. That was like the main focus. I'll do all the younger kids all the way up to high school at prime time, right? And so it was a crazy story. I know Greg Ritchie over at GW for the longest of time. And it was the year COVID was hitting, and like college baseball was coming back into the forefront. And there was a volunteer coach there. I can't remember his name, but it was a very tough situation for him because like all indoor facilities were closed. So he couldn't make any money. And if you know this DC area, it's very, very expensive to live here. So it was maybe 3 weeks before the season's going to start. He has to head back home to Seattle because he can't afford it. So Greg Ritchie has no volunteer coach. He's like, I need to be in the dugout. That's his preference. He comes up to me and he's like, Chris, can you do this? Can you help me out? Can you be my volley? You're the only one who could step right in and do it.
Gotcha.
So I was like, ooh, yeah, fantastic. I'll do this.
So the GW stint was almost like a favor to Greg.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Right. I wanted to help him out, but also learn under him. I mean, I've loved Greg. I never thought I had the time to do both at, like say right now. Mm-hmm. I think there will be a path, there is a path to do that later, in future once primetime gets going. But yeah, so we go here. I want to learn under Greg. We're good. I talked to the team one time, first game or practice at UVA. I'm standing at first base, coach saying, all right, boys, let's get it done. Here we go.
Yeah.
And so incredible. We had the year there. And then I still coach with the Alexandria Aces, which is in the Cal Ripken League. I think this was my 4th year. It should be 5th, but COVID canceled a year.
Yeah. And
actually this past year we won it for the first time in Alexandria history. If you're familiar with the league, the Bethesda Big Train has been the dominant forces in it, so we were able to knock them off in the championship. So
for
really cool stuff.
For the old timers listening, the Cal Ripken League absorbed what used to be the Clark Griffith League. I played a year for the Herndon Braves, and that was a hoot. But yeah, that was a man. Playing baseball and trying to travel around DC traffic was a bear.
Ooh, I got a couple of those Southern boys down there, and I'm like, guys, plan for the traffic. It's going to be worse than you ever think. And they're all anticipating it, and then they get there, and they're like, yeah, this is miserable.
Yeah, like
but part of it, right?
It's better to, show, aim for like an hour before you think you got to get there, just in case.
Correct.
And hey, if you're there with, an extra hour, you get some tea time, and then you're good to go.
Correct.
Golly. So how do you, the prime time, you sort of alluded to, there was some, I don't know, was it sort of on the way down when you were coming in, and then it's been sort of your job to try and resurrect it, or what, or am I not reading between the lines correctly?
No. So I run it with my business partner, John Skaggs. We've been best friends for, goodness gracious, going on for maybe 10 years now. Someone that we've had a strong relationship with, just a true friendship. And it was to the point where I was gone so much playing professional baseball that he's trying to, coach a team, teach high school around here, manage a family as well. And he's not always in the facility. So he had so much on his plate that I'm not there to see it. And when you don't have accountability in anything in life, right, then things are starting to get abused. The facility started to downgrade. The product, the coaches weren't up to par of what, we're used to, because nobody could be in the facility. No head honcho, no boss man could be there to kind of hold these kids accountable. So, it was dicey. It was to the point where it was like, oh my goodness, like, is this worth it now? Like, if I continued playing baseball, I doubt we have prime time where it is right now. Like, there's no chance imaginable that is.
It's he basically by force, because of outside pressures like life and job and family, reluctantly became an absentee owner, which can be tough on a business. And you were an absentee owner because you were playing ball. So
correct.
This place sounds like it was spiraling until you finished playing pro ball.
And so we finished, because most of the thing, and we'll dive into that a little bit more, is baseball and coaches we're all here to learn, right? It's just the kids are here to learn. The coaches I hired are here to learn off of me. But as you saw from my own career, like, I went to GW, which sacrificed primetime hours a little bit, but I wanted to learn under Greg Ritchie, one of the greatest hitting coaches, in my opinion, who is a fantastic human being and a mentor to me. And that was missing if John or myself are not in the building, because they're young kids and they're going to mess up, they're going to act up.
Yeah. Quick Greg Ritchie story. The guy, I've never seen him when he's not talking hitting. And this might be, I don't think he would mind if I told this story, but one day I was at an event, he was there. I went in to use the restroom, and I could hear a guy talking hitting the entire time. The entire time that he was doing what he was doing, talking hitting on his cell phone with whoever's on the other line. And all you hear is flush, people flushing toilets. And who comes out but Greg Ritchie talking hitting, washing his hands, talking hitting. And I'm like, that's hilarious. And so on brand for him. Hopefully he never hears me tell this story. He probably won't hear this podcast, but that's okay. That's a passion for hitting when you can't take a little 5-minute break from talking hitting.
Live, breathe, eat, drink hitting, and it's fantastic because he cares for the kids, right? And he gets the kids better too. Good, most importantly. But we've had some great stories, that's for sure.
Now, are you back in your Vienna Virginia hometown, or do you live like where are you living, in the Fairfax area?
Yeah, we're in the Vienna area, so right where my parents grew up, in a sense, like right in that same community type stuff. It's a very, very nice area here, so we didn't want to move far. We were down in the Woodbridge area. Everything was good down there, just needed a little bit.
And tell me the name of the school you went to again in Vienna. It was a small private school, right?
I went to a school in Potomac, Maryland. So it's about a 20-minute drive. It's called The Heights.
The Heights.
Very good.
Okay.
Yeah, very nice school.
Because when I hear Vienna, the first person who comes to my mind is a high school coach, Hall of Famer.
Should be Pudge.
Pudge. Everybody knows Pudge. He's sort of I would call him the mayor of Vienna. He's the head coach, longtime head coach at Madison, and he's had a run of absolute dudes come through his through his program, and he's a great guy. As a matter of fact, I was texting with him yesterday, and he's out. He's speaking at the Texas coaches convention this coming up weekend. But I've got to get him on the podcast. It's been far too long.
You do.
So
fantastic. What a coach!
A great reminder.
What a coach.
And then the other Vienna sort of staple is Mark Polymeropoulos. I don't know if you know Mark.
Absolutely.
Mark is ex-CIA and wrote a book on leadership called Clarity in Crisis. And if you want to talk baseball, what you do is you go to the Vienna Inn. And you'll find Mark. The Vienna Inn is probably one of the coolest little dive bars, and by total coincidence, Pudge's office for his travel business, MVP International, where he does basically sports trips abroad for all different sports. His office is coincidentally right across the street from the Vienna Inn. What a coincidence! But cool community, and I've got some other friends who live in Vienna.
It is a fantastic community, and their passion for baseball is second to none. Like, we're in Alexandria, right? And like, I can see this. I've been through these routes before, and it's like I'm trying to get the Vienna roots over to Alexandria in a sense of like the passion, the coaching. They're hard-nosed guys, but very knowledgeable over here. He's done a great job.
What's interesting to me is, you can kind of get in any sort of, I guess, bigger sized town. Like I live in Richmond, and you begin to get this little bit of like a urban, what do they call it, urban sprawl sort of scenario. Despite being Vienna, I'm talking about, despite being in close proximity to this huge, densely populated a geographic region, they have still managed to keep this small town USA community feeling, and it's kind of impressive that they're able to do that. Just considering just like, oh, you get in the car and you go like 3 minutes down the road and you're like in a different town, basically.
Correct.
But I want to talk about Alexandria. Alexandria in primetime baseball is one of the few baseball facilities inside the Beltway. And so for those of you guys who don't know the DC map, you basically have DC, Virginia, Maryland, that's circled by a highway. So they call that the Beltway. And it's obviously close proximity. Everything inside that Beltway is close proximity to D.C., and D.C. is the epicenter for everything. Like whatever you need, D.C. can be leaned on as an epicenter, obviously for government, but also for law, for medicine, for business, for everything, which means location, right? That's what they say with real estate, which makes real estate very, very expensive. How have you guys been able to, not only just handle it, but almost, I kind of want to use the word like, kind of like justify it. Like, is Alexandria it's just such a perfect location that you guys are able to just say, like, I'm going to grit my teeth and make this happen here in Alexandria versus moving a few miles to the other side of the Beltway?
Sure, that's a fantastic question, but I think before you could dive into all the hows and whys in it, but I think the main overall point and why we chose Alexandria, and like anything you do in coaching, whether that's playing, coming out and teaching your kids or, coaching yourself, is building relationships. Building relationships is the number one most important thing with whatever you do in coaching, because it keeps people driving and you keep people learning. So long story short, we had one dad reach out to us. His name's John Kelly. If you ever listen to it, he loves getting not the credit, but like he was almost the founder of this. Was just a normal dad who found John and I, had a 9-year-old son, and was like, I want a little bit better coaching. Chris, you got a great resume. John, you're fantastic too. I have a 9 and 10U team. You guys want to coach it? And we're like, so we were in the Merrifield area, which is right around the Vienna area.
Okay.
And we were like, sure, why not? We'll coach some 9 and 10U ball. It's me and my bro at that time, because this was like 7-8 years ago. Like, we'll have some fun with it, We don't have to pay any taxes on the money. Why not? This is like free money just for coaching a little baseball. And so we get going. Sure enough, we put a pretty good product out there, and they're like, hey, we need a facility somewhere to train in the off season, right? I'm like, obviously. I'm like, oh, okay, these guys are pretty serious. So John gets going, and he starts finding all the locations. So we found a nice little spot inside of Alexandria. The rent was always, we wanted to keep our rent as low as possible while giving the best thing, because obviously that's the death of most facilities. And it kind of just kept snowballing. It went from, multiple teams, just multiple people wanted to get in for training. And just that's where the Alexandria kind of niche came from, where we just kind of kept building in that sense.
That's I love a story like that. You're talking about a guy. The guy probably does. He probably does okay. He's probably doing pretty well.
Yeah.
But he's smart. But he's not. He's not so smart that he thinks he knows everything. He's smart enough. He's smart enough to know, hey, I don't know everything, and let me go find a couple guys who are a little better at this thing than I am, and he brings you into his loop. And I bet you, so those kids were like 9, 10. Those kids are in college, probably, or graduated.
Our first class just graduated for this past off season. So this past last year, so in the spring, that was their senior year. And John might kill me for this if I get this number wrong. I think we had 13 original guys. I think 12 of them stayed. 11 of them are playing college baseball right now, with one who I love to death. He's at TCU, who just absolutely let me have it after TCU beat Michigan. So we still stay on all these contacts, but having 11 out of the 12 with 4 D1 guys, a couple D2, and about 6 D3 high academic schools. 11 out of 12 of our number one class. Like, that was the one we built it from. Playing college baseball, it's pretty cool to see.
Yeah, and talk about playing a long game, right? Because you're talking about little kids. Those are little kids. It's not like it's not like you go like you. I mean, you can throw up a shingle and say you're in travel baseball and go recruit a bunch of 15-year-olds. That's not what y'all did. You're talking about little kids, 9-year-olds, 10-year-olds.
We built and bred them to just the making of, again, college baseball players, but we didn't have that in mind. Like, if they wanted to play college baseball, that's fine. Like, that's awesome. We'll help you get there. But we don't use that as our mission statement. Like, this is to the point where we're growing young boys into men. Like, how do they get there? Can we use the game of baseball to shape their lives somehow? Like, failure, the ability to work. What is good work? Is it just, hey, I'm hitting here for an hour? No. You got to get better when we're doing this hour. You need to focus, that type of stuff. So to see it come full fruition is pretty special.
Yeah, that's a cool story, and it's not like he was this father. It's not like he was some billionaire benefactor that handed you over the keys to the Taj Mahal, but rather that he had enough. He could look himself in the mirror and go like, I need somebody better than myself to help me with this thing. And you guys obviously stepped up to the plate.
Absolutely. And it's funny, real quickly, his son actually came up to us. He's back from college. He's playing at Lycoming, a brand new startup baseball program there with a great friend over there. He's the head coach. And he's back. He hits me, John and I, up and says, hey, do you guys have any, work so I can make some money? He painted our new prime time, the inside gym and the pitching lane blue. Painted it all himself, and we'll give him some money here because he's just, hungry for work.
Dude, there's a lot of kids right now that are his age that are allergic to work. So when you find a kid like that, and I know a couple, I got a couple in mind who, when I tell stories like this, it's like when you ask them, or if you present an opportunity, and they're like yes, and those kids are special, man. Those kids are special.
You're right. It's just the special aspect of him wanting more, wanting to do stuff, wanting to provide. He doesn't have a family now, but make his own money the right way in a sense. And it's like, oh, fire me up. Like, I'll pay him as much money as he needs. Keep working there. No, definitely not trying to shortchange him, but like he's going. It's just an awesome thing.
Well, when I say, man, you don't see that many teenage kids who are like that, you and I might be skewed. And I'm going to say, I'll say why. And maybe this doesn't come out right. I don't know. I'm going to try and make it come out right. Okay. Baseball has become a country club sport, right?
It is.
Right. Mm-hmm. So it's not like all teenagers don't want to work. It's because we deal with a niche of the population that oftentimes comes from some level of means. So you combine the level of means, okay, and you multiply that or add that to, they've got a pretty substantial school workload. Then on top of that, the guys that we're dealing with, they have lofty goals athletically as well. And so now you add on top of that the baseball work, if you will. So what? And then obviously you add in a little family time, and you're like, there is no time left to go get a part-time job. There's not.
Correct.
It's like on the one hand, it's like, and maybe that's why it's so refreshing when you see a kid like you just described, or a kid that like I'm thinking about, that like they're eager to do those things, not because they're hard up to go make $50, but because they just simply want to and desire to. It's like, I don't think that's true of the entire population of 15 to 22-year-old kids, but it just so happens we work with a certain niche of that demographic that just like, it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to.
Correct. But it's so funny. You mentioned it a little bit earlier. You said we're kind of in a country club, persona. Baseball's getting that rap. It's expensive.
Oh, travel baseball is absolutely a country club sport right now. Absolutely.
Correct. And I hear that a lot from the parents. And I use this phrase a lot because, they come in here and sure, could prime time be cleaner? Yes, of course. Right? They're like, clean this up. And I'm like, guys, we're here to work. If you're worried about a piece of trash, go pick it up yourself. This is not a country club lifestyle that we are trying to give to you guys. This is one where we work, we try and get better day in and day out, get sore when we're lifting. It's part of it. And so you understand that there's no handouts that we're going in life. That doesn't happen. So trying to get away from it.
Yeah, totally. Tell me, let's talk specifically about prime time a little bit.
Sure.
The teams. Tell us how young you guys start, and I think prime time stops at high school, but I know you also have the Aces that are sort of affiliated with you guys. But tell me about the teams real quick.
Yeah, so right now our teams are growing at a substantial rate. I think we're at 17 to 18 teams. Again, John runs point on all those travel teams, more player development type stuff. We start at 9U. We go all the way up to obviously seniors in high school. So we have different stages for everybody, different paths and journeys for everybody. Multiple teams at certain levels. Obviously, we don't go out and say recruit kids, but if they want to have kind of what we have to experience and desire, then that's how we kind of build our team. So we only have one 9U team. From 9U, 10U, 11U, it's about development, learning how to play the baseball game, the correct way, playing hard, playing fast, that type of stuff. Once we get a little bit higher, like we're sending a team this year who's been fantastically coached by one of our coaches, TJ O'Leary, who actually played for Ireland. They're going to Cooperstown this summer to experience everything that's over there. And then again, moving your way up, we'll start going into the showcase circus a little bit, mostly to get these boys, if they have a passion to play college baseball, we'll get them in front of the college coaches. I hope by you too, hopefully. And then we have the local teams that just want to have play some baseball around here, but want not like a rec ball. They want a little bit more than that. So, yeah, like I said, we're at about 18 teams right now at all of those levels. That team that plays in those local leagues, is that part of the NVTBL or is there a different league? Yeah. Yeah, so we'll play – most of us, if not all our teams, are in the NVTBL. Rob Honey obviously doing a great big thing to use travel baseball in this area. Some of our teams do not because they just want the showcase experience, but they just put a nice little package. NVTBL did a split. You can do showcase and you can get some midweek games in there. I thought that was fantastic for all parties. We're not charged a bazillion, but we can still play some games and get some reps and just have some fun there. So, like I said, Rob's been doing a fantastic job. Saw him at ABCA. But yeah, that's the league we are. I
love, and that's really smart of him to do that. I think that's
really
for a certain level of team at that maybe that 15, 16-year-old, 17-year-old level. It's like if it's a team like y'all's, right, that the kids are generally from the same area, man, let's play some games, right? Like when we played American Legion, we're playing 4 or 5 games a week, and there you gain such camaraderie, and you can take a team of lesser talents that are going to play above their weight because they have experience together and they've played together. And
Correct.
So, yeah, the showcase thing, that summer showcase circuit, it's awesome. And it's totally efficient for what it is meant to be efficient for from a getting in front of coaches perspective. But if you can add some games midweek, if you have that capability. So Rob adding that to the sort of mix of services is awesome.
It's huge because I'm not sure if our showcase teams would have been able to partake. I mean, better than anyone else. My goodness, going to a perfect game event is like $1,500 now, and we are not trying to charge our parents out of the wazoo because we again don't want to, take all their money from them. And if pair that with the games on the side, which that was already expensive for umpires and everything, we have no problem paying it, but we didn't want to have to pick one or the other. So to be able to do this is great. It's great for the kids' development, right? That's the most important thing because the showcases, you might have to play to your strongest position, the kids at it. But in these games, you're like, hey, you want to play second base or shortstop? Here you go. Here's your chance. Show us what you can do. Mm-hmm. Again, preparing them for high school, right? Because they can't just go up to their high school. You're going to go up to Pudge and say, Pudge, I'm a shortstop. He's going to be like, okay, prove it.
Yeah.
Go make the plays. Go show me what you got.
And, man, I'm all about some practice and working the cage and throwing some bullpens and stuff. But, man, there's so much development that actually happens in game. And the reps
Correct.
Against, real time, real speed, game speed. And
just the nerves. The nerves of everything.
It's all of it. It's all of it. And I swear to God, I think you can go out and play 100 games and you'll see 100 unique scenarios that you've never seen before. Because it's like that's how baseball works. You're like, oh man, that some crazy play, right? And you're like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah. But then once you've seen it, you've seen it, and like that's hard to replicate in practice. And yeah, so good on Rob and good on NVTBL to be able to offer sort of both that midweek schedule for the guys playing weekend showcases, and then for the other type of teams who aren't going to go run all over the world playing showcases, and he can just host all their games.
Correct. So I will have to do a little humble brag because it's pretty important for people to understand in this area too. Is we have a really good 17U team right now by a fantastic coach, Chad White. That's his name. He played at Clarion University. I think it's in Pennsylvania type area.
It is. That's coached by Doc Nyman, who is That's talk about a baseball family. Tim Nyman's his dad, who's a Hall of Famer up at DeSales University. So it's a great family. I never miss a chance to give those guys a shout out.
Absolutely. Perfect. And so this is where it kind of came down. I have to give a shout out to our guys because there's a couple teams in this area who can produce that D1 talent, but there's not many who can, breed it, born and breed it all the way up through the system when they were little babies. And so Chad White has done a fantastic job with that 17U team. He's got 2 D1 commits right now. One's at UPenn, going to UPenn that I hit with actually last night around 9:45, and then another kid going to Yale. Right, 2 of the top premier schools that D1 caliber baseball that he's at this level, and there's going to be about 5. He's hoping for 7. I have to kind of reel him in a little because I want that passion out of my coaches. He thinks 7 D1 kids that are homegrown on that team that are going to go off to play Division I baseball. That doesn't happen around here in this area. We aren't the Canes competing against national 5 stars. Stars baseball. Mike Colangelo down there does a fantastic job. And we are starting to enter that realm a little bit. And it's
very few of those guys have offerings at the younger age groups, right? So it's they can't even claim, hey, we've had them since they're 9 because it doesn't exist. So the fact that you're able to not only bring them in early, but then also, not only that they get good enough to get to that level, but then you're able to retain them. That's its own thing right there. Retention's tough.
Exactly. But it's so a lot of the organizations do have younger teams, but they're all still dad coached. So from 8U up to 13U, a lot of them just have one of the players' dads coaches the team. They have 3 or 4 bands of them ready to roll. We always try to stay away from that unless, for instance, St. Stephen's St. Agnes head coach Jim Supple is the head coach of our, I think, 10U going to be 11U team. His son's on the team. Well, he's got a little bit more
he's not just a random dad. He's a baseball coach.
Exactly. So we stay away from that, even from the younger level. We always try and put a professional coach with whatever team. So, I have a 9U practice that I'm running tonight that I'm going to develop them so they continue to go and, grow and become, obviously, good baseball players, hopefully. And so that's how I think we retained them. This coach, Chad White, has been with them, again, since they've been 12, maybe 13. I might be wrong on that, but it's been so long now. And so you build relationships with these kids because you're seeing them transform from teenagers, which I'll be honest, 14, 15 years is the worst year to coach baseball. I can't stand it. The kids start turning into arrogant little kids, they're all on their cell phones and, but you get to shape them to show them the right way because there are a lot of vices out there that will distract them from what they need to do.
I just got plunked by a Nerf bullet in the back. So my kid just sniped me from across the room.
Good shot.
Yeah, it was a good shot. You said that 15-year-old level is a tough level. What do you do when you start to see that kid become that transition from little, that little kid that you used to remember at 12 and he was so sweet and such a nice kid. And then now he's starting to transition and he maybe becomes a little bit of a punk. And I don't want to be, you know what I mean. What are some of the things as a coach inside this facility? You don't get them 24 hours a day, but you do get them. How do you handle that? What are some of the things that you guys and your staff can do or say, or is it conversations with the kid or the parent or both?
So that's a great question. I'm actually coaching the 15U, so this would be the freshman boys, and my team is very, very good. We got 3 guys in the mid-80s right now, some extreme baseball players on it, all from this area, and they are a bunch of punks. We were hitting tonight they are just, not disrespectful, but loud, obnoxious, like a boy would be, which if you go into that understanding of what a boy should be, a teenager should be, it makes everything a little bit easier, but you have to hold them accountable. You have to. And it's imperative. So if they're watching something that they shouldn't be watching on their phone, or if they're on social media too much, no more cell phones. Get that out of here, you know? Yeah, they all learn how to swear right now, by the way. I've never seen so much cussing from my group, and I'm taking that away. You're on the bench. That's not happening anymore. We don't curse up a storm because you strike out or something. So once they see that in you, then you know that they can trust you. Now, here comes the difficult part is when they start butting heads with you, and they're like, no, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Like, this world's easy. Like, I'm going to conquer it. And you're like, okay, buddy. So I will let them fail. I'll put them, rightfully let them fail with me. So it's putting them in a spot where, sure, maybe I could have pinch hit this kid right here and win the ball game, but I'm going to let this kid have his moment. Maybe he comes up, maybe he doesn't, but they have to learn this on their own if they really want what's next, right? And if they don't want college football, that's also fine too. But it's letting these kids grow. And like you know better than anything, failures happens in this game, and you're going to have to see it sometimes. So it's coming.
The accountability for when they are behaving like buttheads. I tell you, my little guy just turned 7. I'm like, can he just? I've had enough time around teenagers. I'm like, can he just go from like 7 to like 25? Is that possible? And skip that whole butthead decade, or because like, man, I see these some of these kids. You're just like, you can look at them, and you said the perfect word. You can look at that kid and say, yeah, that kid has such little accountability that he's just able to get away with stuff. And that's a great word and a great response to the question I asked about, sort of how you're handling it. Yeah, cool. Yeah, good. I'm gonna have to talk to.
Definitely not easy though. It's just work.
I think
work, and that they love to build in excuses as well. And that was my biggest thing. You strike out, you strike out. You get out, you get out. My philosophy over here in this area is, hey, I'm going to give you tools to try to help you make an adjustment. And I've had numerous kids on my team just come up like, the pouty, like, why? Like, I'm too cool for school. Like, I can't believe I just got out. Like, what I do, coach? And I'm like, absolutely not. Like, this is the time to be a man, try and figure out, take ownership of that failure, and be like, okay, let's try something different my next at bat. Don't give me the I'm too cool, everybody's looking at me, type stuff that you see in freshmen. So it's hard on them. Being accountable, though, it's imperative. Has to happen.
Yeah, I love that. I want to. I'm looking at the clock. I've had you on here a while. I want to skip ahead to one final question, and we may have to have you come back again and talk further. I've really enjoyed this today. So I'm gonna jump to my last of the standards that I usually ask, because I think this is a question that can often sort of open up a good discussion, and then I'll let you go. So the question is, what's one change that could be made to travel baseball that would have the biggest positive impact? The biggest positive impact.
That is the toughest question to ask, because obviously it's more of a personal opinion. Yeah. But I think this might resonate with a lot of people who are travel ball coaches going through it. We really need to stay away from just showcase baseball. If anybody doesn't know what it is like, I consider myself a grinder. I love to win. I hate to lose. Like, I try and win at not all costs, but you play the game to win. And when you play certain tournaments, and it's like a 3-game guaranteed, but it's like, hey, you're not playing for anything.
Yeah, the scoreboard's off. The scoreboard's off. There's no scorekeeper. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
That is the most detrimental thing right now for a kid, because it is feeding into their selfish ego, and that has to go away. Like, some of my kids, I have to get them out of the mindset. They just want a ranking, in the state of Virginia to be higher up. Like, I want to be the top 10 pitcher in the state of Virginia, and that's all they're playing for. And I'm like, you can't get more selfish than that. Just me. And you go to any of these colleges, they care about your ranking, because you'll get eyes on you. And I don't hear what I'm not saying. It can be beneficial. But these colleges, you get there, you need to be a part of a team. You need to learn to do your role to win the game for the said college, said pro ball, whatever it may be. And John and he actually signed me up for one of these tournaments for my 15s in the fall, and I was so miserable coaching this game. It was the most miserable. It was 3 games, had nothing to play for, and gonna go through a tournament bracket to win it all, right? You win the championship, everything's sweet, blah, 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 all that good stuff. And I think that's just hurting our, society, because social media is in effect like a very selfish thing. So when you add more selfish habits and traits, hey, look at me, let me show out. Again, which is fine at times, but not the sole brunt of everything. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. It's ironic is a couple of these event companies, they consider themselves scouting and ranking companies. They run such wonderful events that have been so good for the industry, but the ranking and scouting parts are such I don't know, it's kind of obnoxious, annoying, and not that beneficial, because I've never read a negative scouting report on a kid.
That is true,
right? Like the kid throws 79, and they're like, he's got a plus change up. You're like, what? Right. So like the scouting reports itself are comical, and then in my opinion, the rankings, it's like, well, the rankings could be good for the guys up at the top, but the guys up at the top, everybody already knows those are the better players. So is it that they're good that people know who they are, or is it their rank that people know who they are? And then if you're not ranked high, guess what? That ranking doesn't help that kid at all. So like, I think an argument could be made that rankings don't help any of the kids. So it's like, man, I honestly, if we could, we're not going to, but if we could convince a couple of those companies to just take that off their sites, I think you're right. I think it would have a net positive impact in this industry.
And again, what's getting hurt the most is the middle tier to bottom guys, because they know they have to do something to try and get up on those rankings, and they do not play the game the correct way.
Sign up for a couple more of the event. Sign up for a couple more camps and showcases, and they magically rise in ranking.
You're out there.
Well, listen,
so it's whether it's also second and third, less than 2 outs. This little Johnny over here at prime time trying to hit a 3-run bomb, strikes out. What college coach wants that? They need to have the understanding of how to play the baseball game, whether that's a simple ground ball the other way to get the run in. So we're losing that aspect of it, and that drives me nuts.
That's a great answer to a tough question. I'll tell you what, man, I've really enjoyed having you on. I'll give you the final word. Is there any parting shots you might want to just say for any parents, players, coaches who might still be listening to us 52 minutes in?
Absolutely. Real quickly, so my former coach at Michigan was Rich Maloney. He just received an award at the ABCA, the Division I coach who got the Ethics Award. It was fantastic. Great. It was fantastic to see. So we were able to hang with him beforehand, talk to him a little bit. It was a very emotional thing for him, but obviously that resonated on me. And he literally said just one thing that I'll never forget. It's like, find the coaches that are passionate for your kid, right? And he was like, we had a bunch of kids from Ball State to Butler, all these guys that are former coaches or players. And it's find the kids or the coaches who are not going to, boost up your kid, to tell them everything's going to be okay where they are. Make sure these coaches are challenging them. In our day and age of social media, we have coaches, boosting their radar guns to look better into their social media phase. And that's only hurting your kid. It's not driving them to where they need to be. And it's okay if little Johnny throws 83. It's okay. Let's find the right fit for him. But if you boost somebody up, or, you don't get honest feedback from a coach from building that relationship, then that's more detrimental in the long run than anything. So, hearing it from my former coach, building relationships, we want to be a mentor for these boys. We want to be a second father if they need a helping hand through their turmoil times as a teenager. That's what we try to be. So find the coaches that will invest that, invest on the ball field, invest off the ball field too. Care for them. Don't just go, hey, let's go hit some ground balls here. Like, that's great too, but hey, how was school, man? What's your GPA right now? Like, are you keeping it up? Well, I got like a C minus. What are you talking about? You got a C minus. Good. And then the coach will talk to mom, like, why is he getting a C minus? That can't happen. Like, so that's my point. It's just ethically trying to keep building these boys, because again, our youth is in a very, very, challenging position to grow into this world. So if we can offer them the help or guidance, then find that coach that's going to give it in your area.
Well said. Man, I appreciate your time today. This was a fun conversation. I'm gonna stop the recording there. Don't hang up. Give me 1 second here.